changing our world through storytelling. The victim. The thought of going to school made her feel sick. Was it going to be another day of torture by her friends? She wished her parents could change her school, but how was she going to explain that to them? Akuye feigned tummy ache, and her mother asked that she stayed home to be observed. She was happy that trick worked. Later in the day, her mother saw her jumping around, and then she knew her daughter was well. The next morning, she was moody while preparing for school. She was well aware that any excuse not to go to school will not suffice. Auntie Naki packed Akuye's lunch and snack in her lunch bag and drove her to school. As soon as she entered the compound, she began to cry. She quickly wiped her tears off her face and thought of a place to hide. Akuye looked on as her mother drove off the school compound. Lots of negative thoughts ran through her mind. As she walked to her class, she tripped and fell. Her woes for the day began. Chum burst out laughing and shouted, "Humpty Dumpty has fallen again. Who will help her?" Ataba and Mauli joined Chum to make fun of Akuye. A child saw what happened and she helped Akuye to the class. Akuye could not concentrate in class. She felt she was under intense surveillance and became lonely and sad. She asked herself, was it a crime to be plumpy? She was teased and called names which made her feel less a human being. She was afraid to report to the authorities for the act of bullying to be dealt with. This attitude of bullying got Akuye depressed. Negative thoughts kept running through her mind. She had no one to confide in. When the bell rang for closing, she was always the first to get to the car park to wait for whoever came to pick her. The next day, she devised a strategy to use the washroom as her hideout. As soon as she got to the school, she walked straight to the washroom and stayed there till closing. She sneaked out when the bell rang for closing to the car park. This went on for days. One of the teachers got worried and decided to call her father to ask if Akuye was unwell. Her father was surprised to hear that. He placed a quick call to his wife to inform her of what Akuye's teacher had told him. Her mother got very worried because she dropped her off at school every day and picked her up. Akuye's parents went to the school to find out what was going on. They went to the headmistress's office and the headmistress confirmed Akuye's absence in the school. Mrs. Boache took them to Akuye's class, and to their surprise, Akuye's seat was empty. Her mother was so confused because she always drove her to school. Akuye told her that she wanted to do an hour of reading before the class began, and her mother thought it was a brilliant idea. Her parents stayed till closing to see where their daughter would come from. Soon after the bell rang for closing, there was Akuye. Her father pleaded with her mother to allow him to handle the issue. She opened the back seat of the car sat and greeted her parents. They both responded and asked how her day went. Akuye replied, "It was good, just that I'm famished. I didn't have time to eat my snack and lunch because we had lots of notes to copy," she said. They both turned to look at her in anger. Her father wondered how his daughter could coin such a line and told with so much confidence. Akuye's father got out of the car and went to open the back seat door where Akuye sat and held her hand and asked her to come over. He did not utter a word and walked her to the headmistress's office. Her mother got down and followed. Mrs. Boache, on seeing Akuye with her parents, took off her spectacles and asked Akuye's father where he found her. "On this very compound," he replied. "How?" asked Mrs. Boache. "The headmistress sent for Mr. Dagati, her class teacher." Her father began, "Akuye, where have you been? Your mother brings you to school every morning. Tell us, where do you go? What is happening? Tell us. Your mother and I were informed of your absence in class for a whole week. We rushed here to ascertain the truth because to us, you come to school every day." Akuye cried uncontrollably. Mrs. Boache offered her a tissue and asked her to stop crying. And then she narrated her story of how some of her mates treated her when she came to school. She added that she couldn't stand them anymore, so she decided to lock herself up in the washroom till school closed. "Why didn't you report to your teacher?" her mother asked. "You could have told me." Mrs. Boache asked Mr. Dagati to call Chum and his cohorts. They got to Mrs. Boache's office and she asked them why they take delight in making someone's daughter sad and depressed. They replied, "We were just playing with her." They all said in unison, "Playing with her?" Mrs. Boache continued, "How do you call that play? You come to school every day to learn, but because of your attitude towards this young lady, she goes to hide in the washroom from morning till school closes. Is that fair? How would you feel if that was done to your sister? I need to see your parents tomorrow morning. Is that clear?" Mrs. Boache pleaded with Akuye's parents and assured them that punitive action would be taken against them. She spoke extensively to Akuye and referred her to the school counselor. At assembly the next day, Mrs. Boache announced that anyone caught bullying another would be suspended. My dear friends, do unto others what you would want others to do to you. Bullying in all forms is bad and should not be encouraged. Report anyone who bullies you in school to your teacher. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share. Your comments are also appreciated. A story a day, changing our world through storytelling.